Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Drive in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. We're glad you decided to check us out. God has a specific message of hope for your life and mine today, so listen up.
Hey guys, how are you guys doing today? Everybody doing all right? I tell you, I was loving that worship. Thank you, Josue, for giving everything you have to the Lord. Thank you so much for that, because that spoke to me today. Amen. I was sitting there thinking through as we're singing that Slave to Fear. Man, fear is just like a thing this morning, right? You know, we're giving our fears to the Lord. You know, we're grateful for all that God's done for us. We're no longer slaves to fear. Man, that was just hitting me powerfully right there, because that perfect love of God casts out all fear. You know, when we experience the love of God and we can continue to return to that, what God has given us, it casts out the fear in our life. We don't have to live in fear. We don't have to live worried about things. We don't have to live about what's going to come tomorrow, because we know that God handles that. When we, in Matthew 6, when we seek first the kingdom of God, we seek God, we love Him, we put ourselves into Him, He takes care of all the little things that we might want to deal with or might feel like we have to deal with, or the things like the lacks, or the things that we don't have, or the things that we should have, or the things that we think if we don't get, something bad's going to happen. God takes care of all of those things. That perfect love, of God. We're in our Start-Stop series, and we did that kind of the first of the year because we're really good at starting things in January, right? The whole thing, the drill. It's you start the new workout routine, you start the new diet, you start the new hobby, you start the new semester, you start the new year. For all the people that are accountants and stuff out there, you've got all the paperwork, business people that starts the new year. And how many people have written 2019 about 50 times already? You've been good about it? I've done it. I've had to go back and scribble out a few times, but surprisingly not as much as other years that I've had. But we're all good at starting things, and we start these new things in our lives. We get all revved up. Here, I'm going to start this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do that. But we don't realize that just as important as what we start is what we choose to stop. Unfortunately for us, we're bad at stopping things. We really are. We can start something new. We're not as good at stopping it in the church world, in our lives, everything. And here's what happens is whether you choose to stop something or not, when you start something else will stop. And if we leave that just purposeless, and we just start something and we just say, well, whatever's going to stop is going to stop, usually it's the wrong thing that will stop. It's usually the wrong thing that will stop. Whether we're in our schedules and the things that we do, when we get tired, when we get worn out, when we get overwhelmed, the things that stop in our lives are not usually the best things to stop. They're usually the things that are sometimes difficult for us. But you know what? What's difficult sometimes is often necessary. And we usually gravitate toward the easy. But just like icing on a cake or a donut, that's not usually the best thing to eat. Usually you need to eat things that are healthy for you. And in the same way with our schedule, we need to fill our schedule with things that are healthy and necessary for us. So when we start something, the things that we stop, we need to be purposeful about what those are. I'm going to ask you we're going to talk about something today that's probably maybe a little bit weird, and the title's a little bit of shock value, I'll admit right off the bat, but I'm going to ask you today to stop liking people. All right, how many people expected to come to church and hear the pastor say, I want you to stop liking people? No, nobody. I'm just going to tell you, it has a point. It has something to do with what we've already been talking about today. But I want to tell you something. Like is a big thing in our culture, and I think it's a problem sometimes. Because like is something we have to do. You on social media, right? You put something out on social media. What do you do if you agree with what they said? You like it, right? You like it. You like the pictures. You like the stuff. You know, you have friends. You like your friends. Why do you like your friends? Because they impress you. Because they have something funny to say. Because they're nice to you. All these things. You like. I like cake. I like this. I like pizza. I like donuts. I like the Boston cream. Way too much from Krispy Kreme. And not. If you're a Dunkin' person out there watching on Facebook, I'm so sorry, but Krispy Kreme's got you beat on the Boston cream. There's just something weird about the filling, and it's so sad that I know enough about those two donuts to know this, right? There's a weird aftertaste in the Dunkin' filling, that's not there in the Boston cream and the Krispy Kreme, so I have to go to the Krispy Kreme. Krispy Kreme donut can be sitting there with a Boston cream, can be sitting there for 65 days. It can be hard as rock. It can like chewing on that cushion on the seat right there, but I will go for it because there's something awesome about it. We like all these things. We like. I got to like this. I got to like that. I got to like my store because there's 50 stores. So what store do I go to? The one I like. The one I like. Like is big all over the place. We like people. And there's nothing wrong with liking people per se. But here's something. I'm going to tell you something. I'm going to just throw this out at you. Nowhere in the Bible you're going to find where God says, I command you to go like everyone. Now you're starting to think, so I need to Google, where does God say, like Bible verse? God, like, where does God say that? I'm going to tell you, you're going to go back in the Bible, and if you were to find something somewhere in some obscure, minuscule corner, you won't, but if you were, it's not going to be nearly as important as something that God says is a big, important thing for us to do, and that is to love people, right? But my concern, my great concern, is that we sometimes get those two mixed up. John 15:12 tells us, it says, this is my commandment, love each other in the same way I've loved you. That's Jesus speaking there. This is my commandment to you. You love each other the way I have loved you. And I think in our culture, we have spent too much time worrying about who we like and who we don't like rather than who we love. If you're a Republican, you like the Republicans. You don't like the Democrats. If you're a Democrat, you don't like the Republicans. Now that's as a group, because I got a boatload of friends that are on the other side of the political aisle from me, and I think they're pretty cool. And one thing God really told me recently, he said, look, when you start thinking about political issues, Mr. Political Man, you need to start putting the face of the person that's on the aisle that's your friend, that you love, on the face of that group. It changes the way you think about things, right? When you put somebody there. There's people that we like. There's people that we love. It's okay to like people. But my concern is we spend too much time worrying about who we like. I like this football team, that football team. Who likes the San Francisco 49ers tonight? Who likes them? I don't know what that is. Who likes the Kansas City Chiefs? Okay, we got some more Kansas City Chiefs fans. Okay, all right. Do we think they're going to win? Somebody's going with Mahomes. Somebody's going with Garoppolo, and I feel like the 49ers are more of a team. I don't know like one guy that really sticks out. They're just a bunch. And then you go to Kansas City, and it's Mahomes. It's all Mahomes. My boy had Mahomes in his fantasy football team. Love Mahomes. Mahomes was it. Mahomes. He had a keeper league. If you don't know what that is, look it up. I won't tell you, but he kept him. It means he could keep him from one year to the next. So he kept him from last year to this year because he loves Patrick Mahomes. Got a book about Patrick Mahomes to read about Patrick Mahomes because he likes Patrick Mahomes. Because Patrick Mahomes seems like a cool guy. He throws a lot of touchdown passes. He does a lot of things. He helps his team win, and we like to watch him do it. We get some sort of feeling back when we see him do it. So we like Patrick Mahomes, if you like Patrick Mahomes. But like is not commanded by God. This is my commandment. Love each other in the same way I have loved you. So if God says, I want you to love people the way that I love them, that's important, right? Now I'm going to tell you, if I ask anyone out here, and everyone, if I went out on the street out there and said, what's your definition of love? I guarantee you they would come up with something. Love is a concept that everybody feels like they have a handle on. They know what it is. I know what love is. I know, I've got a song. I want to know what love is. That's all right, buddy. I already know. I know what love is. You feel like you know what love is. But are we right? You see, love began somewhere. It began with the blessed controller and creator of all things, with God. So if we want to know what love is, here's some things that we need to understand what he says it is if we're going to love people. In 1 Corinthians 13, you've heard this a bunch of times, okay? We're going to go through that. I hope today that God speaks to you in a way and reminds you of things that you haven't known, or that he sparks thought in you and connects dots with your friends and who you are. So we're going to turn 1 Corinthians 13, and I'll work my way through that and share with you some things about love. If you're following us on Facebook, you can go out. The Bible Gateway is a great place. That's usually a solid translation, multiple translations. We're going to be reading from the NIV today, but it's okay. If you've got a paper Bible out there, that's fine. If you've got your app, that doesn't matter. Pull your app out, do what you need to do. I don't care as long as you read it and you read it, okay? And you allow God to speak into your heart, okay? We're going to start in verse 1. It says, if I speak with the tongues of men or of angels, but do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. I want you to think about what he just said there. That's something we can roll past. We've heard it 1,000 times in weddings. Everybody wants to make memes about it. Put out there, if I speak with the tongues of men and angels or of angels, but I do not have love, I am only a resounding gong or a clanging cymbal. It doesn't matter about the beauty that I produce. If I don't have love, it's not worth anything. It's a resounding gong. It's a clanging cymbal. It's an irritation. It's an irritation to those around us ultimately. There's some things I was thinking about what that means. Look, if I can speak more intelligently than everyone else, if I'm a great lawyer and I know what to say, if I'm a great actor, or if I'm a great singer, if I can sing so awesome and have the greatest voice whatsoever, and if I could just write the most awesome play, or I can write the greatest book, or I can speak about a book and talk about how awesome that is, it doesn't matter what comes out of my mouth. If it's without love, it's worthless. It doesn't matter what art I can produce. I love this stuff that they put on the walls over here, man. This is cool. It matches. I told Jesse, you did a great job, brother, bringing that around. But it's pretty. But you know what? I could create 1,000,000 of those. Without love, it's not worth anything. It's a resounding gong. It's a clanging cymbal. In other words, you're going to hit it once. It's going to irritate everybody, and it's going to fade away, and nobody's going to remember that it was there. You understand that? It doesn't matter what beauty I can come in. It doesn't matter what thought I've got. It doesn't matter how awesome I can speak, or what I can say, or how beautiful I sound, look, what I can put on film, what I can edit together to make you cry with music up under it. It doesn't matter about the story that I've had that I tell you in such a way that you go, wow, that was an incredible story. I identify with that. It does not matter if there's not love. Verse 2 says this. It says, if I have the gift of prophecy and can fathom all mysteries and all knowledge, if I have a faith that can move mountains, but do not have love, I'm nothing. I can have faith like you wouldn't believe. I can believe in something so hard. I can be so passionate about it. I can just, yes, I believe. There are purple cows flying in the sky out there. I'm telling you they're there. I'll prove it to you. Trust me, Andrew. There's purple cows out there. I can believe all I want with this great faith. I could get you, if I could believe so hard and so passionate. We've seen people who are so passionate, so hard, they believe so much, they can convince lots of people to go with them. And I can convince you, without love, it's nothing. I can have the gift of prophecy. I can know all about the future. I can tell all of how things need to be. I can fathom all mysteries and knowledge. I can know all these things. I can tell you all this stuff. I can read things and see, this tendency is going to go here and this is going to go there. And I can figure out how this is going to go. But if it's not without love, it doesn't matter. I could be a football coach tonight on a sideline, and I can read what the other team's going to do, and I can develop a game plan to beat the other team. But you know what? At the end of the day, I'll have a ring, there'll be a trophy, but it won't mean anything if I don't have love. It won't mean anything without love. Verse 3 says this, if I give all I possess to the poor and give over my body to hardship that I may boast, but do not have love, I gain nothing. We have an awesome ministry here called Delivering Hope. Bill, you do a great job heading that up, man. And Roger's with it. Barry is somewhere. I mean, he was on work day. I mean, we've got so many people in here, and if I miss anybody, I'm just going to stop right there because I probably will miss somebody. And please, I love you for doing that. Andrew, yes. Thank you, brother. Jill, yes, thank you. There you go. One of the things I love about that ministry is we don't deliver. What we do is taking food to the homeless camps. There, dude. Gotcha. Barry. Take food to the homeless camps. And once a week, and take MREs out there to the homeless camp. And the reason we didn't call it delivering food is because that's not the purpose of the ministry. What we're trying to do, deliver hope. Our hope is that we deliver food, we develop relationships with people, thereby able to show them the love of Christ in a tangible way in front of them, hopefully developing relationships with them by which we can share the gospel of Jesus Christ with them. That's the most important thing, right? We're not delivering food, we're delivering hope. That's what we ultimately want to deliver. We could all come together and we just take all our bank account and sell all our houses and everything, and we could all pile that money up right here. And we could go buy food and give it to all, try to end hunger in Palm Bay. Wouldn't happen, but we could try it. We could do all of that stuff, but if we don't have, we could die poor. We could go out and starve ourselves. We could end hunger by creating it. And we could kill everybody. Oh, what a great sacrifice you gave. But if I don't have love, we don't gain anything. It's worthless. Worthless. I want to tell you something about those 3 verses, interestingly enough. Let's think about what they are. First is what I say. Second is what I know. And the third is what I do. Here's the thing. If I went and I asked somebody what love is, how do you know that someone loves you? Oh, well, they say these nice things to me. Oh, or they do these nice things to me. Or they know so much about me. They just know me. So many of them, I'm reading those verses, I'm just seeing these are the characteristics or the telltale signs of what our culture considers love. Man, he really loves his team. He knows all about them. But here's what God is saying is, look, all these things are not love. And they can be accomplished without love. And there are people that do that, or Paul wouldn't have had to write it to tell people that. And they spend their life loving, feeling like they're loving, but they're not. They're doing something that will ultimately be worthless. How many times have you had a relationship with someone and you have tried and you've given and given and given and given and given and given, and they went away? It happens. You've said everything you could. You said the nice stuff. You tried to convince and cajole, and you tried to... No, they went away. Maybe you've known, and that daughter or that son or that niece or that nephew that you love so desperately, and you know what they're in the middle of. You know, I know you don't need to do that. I know you don't need to do that. And you've said it, and you've tried to speak it, and you've tried everything you could, and you know, and they still walk away in the middle of it, and there's a rift between you and them. It doesn't matter what you know. It doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter what you do. If you don't have love, it's going to gain you nothing. Here's the thing, though. If you do all of those things or anything with love, it will gain you everything. So we better know what love is, right? Right before this, Paul talked about, previously, he talked about all these things, all these gifts, all these things he could do in chapter 12. You know, if you can prophesy, if you can do all these things, you can do all this stuff, all this stuff. Can you do this? Can you do this? Can you do this? All that's worthless. But I'm about to show you a more excellent way. And then he launched into chapter 13 and starts talking about love. And in verse 4, let's take a look and see what it talks about love is. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. It is not proud. I want you to think about that. Patient, kind. It doesn't envy. It's selfless. It doesn't boast. It's not proud. You know, here's the thing. When you like someone, you may not realize this or not, but when we like someone, one of the reasons that we like them is because either just subconsciously or emotionally or something, there's something coming back to us from them. I like their smile. They look pretty. They said something nice. They do nice things for me. They know so much. They helped me with this. They came over to my house. They did this. All this stuff. doesn't envy, doesn't boast, not proud, it's patient. Verse 5 says it doesn't dishonor others. It's not self-seeking. It's not looking for something to come back. It's not easily angered. Keeps no record of wrongs. And here's what I want you to understand. It doesn't dishonor people. This doesn't give us an out to dishonor someone. I don't know about you, but if someone dishonors me, it almost feels like I got justice in the universe if I dishonor them back. You ever feel that way? Somebody calls you a knucklehead and you want to call them, well, you're a knucklehead times 2. Bam. I'm going to go get you back. Of course, you probably got better stuff than me. I got that much on that. Sometimes you may feel that way, but that's not what love is. It says it doesn't dishonor others. In other words, I may want to go and dishonor someone in the way that I talk about them. I may want to dishonor them in the motions that I make toward them. I may want to dishonor them in some way. Think about however you honor somebody. I may want to do the opposite to somebody. But you know what this tells me is when I'm doing that, I'm not acting in love. Because love doesn't dishonor others. Love is not, it isn't self-seeking. In other words, it's not seeking the best for yourself. Some people do whatever's best for themselves. Some people think love is doing what is the worst for themselves while doing the best for other people. That's not it. You know what self-seeking means? If you're not self-seeking, you're not in the equation. So it's not about, I'm going to sacrifice so that you can have. No, I'm just going to do whatever I can to make you have. Self didn't come into that. Your evaluation of what you are doing in relationship to yourself based on someone else, that doesn't come into that. You're just worried about them. You're worried about loving them. It's not easily angered. It's very hard to make angry. I'll be honest with you, this is something that I struggle with at times, all the time. I learned early in life, through sports and different things like that you react to problems with anger. And I've spent the rest of my life learning not to do that. Something comes up, it's a barrier, okay, break it down, No, that doesn't work. It works great in football. It doesn't work great here. It's not great in life. That rarely works. Usually that makes things worse. When you react in anger. Love is not easily anger. When you act quickly in anger, that's a telling sign that you're not acting at that moment in love. Does that mean you don't love anybody if you've ever been angry with them? Or you act out of that or something? No, it doesn't mean that. But it means at that moment you need to realize, hey, I'm not acting in love at this moment. I read something recently, Jeremiah, and I'm discipling Jeremiah. We met yesterday. And it reminded me of something that in our study in one-on-one with God that we're doing, that Gary Smalley, who's a famous author, he talked about struggling with anger. And what he realized is the reason that he kept struggling with anger is because he was looking for someone else to meet a need that he had rather than God. You said that to me, wait a minute. What did you just do? You threatened my security. You said something ugly about me, my self-respect. You threatened my relationship with other people. I shouldn't need all of those people to make my security because my identity is found in Christ. That's God's job. It's not yours to take away or theirs to give. Right? And what he started saying is when he started to feel angry, he would say, you know what? God, thank you so much. He would stop and pray. Thank you that I am aware that I'm being angry. I apologize and confess to you that I'm looking for someone else to meet a need that you're supposed to meet. Will you forgive me and help me not to feel that way and to only look to you? And it's amazing how his anger problem changed. Anger doesn't really show in love. It doesn't keep a record of wrongs. I've told you so many times, you can forgive someone. It's 70 times 7. It's what it says earlier in the Gospels. You have 1 time, 7 times? No, 70 times 7. And sometimes I've told you that may mean the same thing. Somebody did this one thing to you, and you just keep going back to it, And every time your mind goes back to, well, I can't believe wait a minute. Now, I forgave them. I made a choice to forgive. And every time you have to restart that clock and say, look, no, I forgave them. I'm not going to hold that against them. God, I'm sorry that I'm thinking what I'm thinking right now. That's not cool. I'm going to move on from that. And you have to do that. That's love. Love doesn't get angry either, and it doesn't hold on to the records where people have wronged you. That's difficult. I'm going to tell you something. Well, I'll show them how this feels. Some people get around it that way. Well, I'm going to exact revenge on someone because they need to know how it feels when they did that to me. I'm going to tell you something. That does not work. That's a fail. All that does is make the other person angry, and they think they have to up the ante on you the next time. Even if you're right. It burns them, it hurts them, it stings them inside. The best way you do that, you spend time in prayer, you show them the right example. When you need to talk about something that they have done that hurts you, find a good place, find a quiet place, find something that's set up a time. Explain to them out of love, I don't want you to keep doing this to me. Why? Not because it's on me, but because you're dishonoring God when you're doing that, and I don't want that to be in your life. If it was just me, I can get over it because my self-esteem is in Jesus. I can work around it. If you're being a problem to me, I will move over to the side. I'll get out of your way. You can have your life over there by yourself, not hurting me. But I'm concerned about you because I'm worried about you and what you're doing and what is causing you to act this way that's dishonoring to God, and it's hurting you. You see the difference? The difference is not about revenge for me. The revenge is about I want this person to honor God with all they have. And maybe, just maybe, and I'll speak this, and some of the elephant in the room sometimes is like when you talk about, spousal abuse and things like that, and well, you just want people to sit there and take it. No, that's not what I'm saying. There may come a time when if your spouse is abusing you, there may come a time where you need to remove yourself from that location and that geography, and if nothing else, to say, look, I'm removing the temptation for you to do that because you're dishonoring the Lord, and I'm going to love you from over here. Until you go, I'm going to urge you to go get help. Because you need to fix that. You need to stop that because you're just honoring the Lord by the way you're treating me. But the important thing is not how you treat me. It's about how you're honoring the Lord or not. Now, that's not saying that treating someone nice isn't important, but it's saying, look, we have to have the priority in the right position because I'm going to be quite honest with you. If you married someone and they're a follower of Christ, that should mean something. That should mean, when you look at them and you say, look, you're dishonoring the Lord by the way you're acting, that should be the nuclear bomb. Because the truth is, they should love God more than they love you. Katie should love God more than she loves me. I want her to love God more than she loves me. You want to know why? Because God has a greater pull on her life. God is always going to be cool. God is the blessed controller of all things who she's dedicated her life to. And if she's loving God by the way she treats me, that's the best thing for me. It is. But we don't keep the record of wrongs. We go on to verse 6. It says, love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It does not rejoice about injustice, but rejoices whenever the truth wins out. You know why? Because love understands. When the truth wins out, it's not because, liar, we got you. Love understands. You have to put this in the context of what it is. When we're talking about patient, kind, all these type of things, this is from a spiritual aspect first. All that we do springs from a relationship with God. It springs from our spirit and how we follow Jesus and how we follow these things. And when we want injustice to be stomped out, it's not simply for the act of that injustice because we know injustice conflicts with who God is. And that's not presenting a correct picture of who God is. So when justice wins out, that's not about the person that got busted. It's like, yeah, got you. Woo, get you some of that. It's like, yes, thank you, Jesus, for bringing justice. You're showing who you are. That's why we are happy. That's why we understand, because love understands that. You see, love is not a place where it's just a man-to-man or a woman-to-man type of a thing, or we're friends, or we're buddies, or we're relation, whatever. It's not just an earthly thing. It is about God. The Bible tells us that God is love. It's about God. See, that's what we have to look at as well. In verse 7 said, it always protects, it always trusts, it always hopes, it always perseveres. It always protects from what? From destruction. From what? It always protects wanting someone to know Christ more. The most loving thing you can do for anyone, is to help them know Christ, help them know a better picture of Christ, help them to get closer to Christ. You have to put it in this context. Always protects from that. Always trust. In what? In the person? No, in God. I put my trust and my security in God. It always hopes for what? That God's will and God's blessing will be done. It always perseveres. Why? Because it trusts completely in God, because of love's faith in God. Do you see where these are saying? I always protect, I always trust, I always hope. They've let me down 1,000 times. I keep trusting in them. I keep trusting in them. That's hard because it wears out. But you know what? I can't trust in a person who's let me down 1,000 times, but I can trust in a God who's never let me down once. And my trust goes there, my hope goes there, my always perseveres, because I know that in verse 8, love never fails. But where there are prophecies, they'll cease. Where there are tongues, they will be stilled. Where there's knowledge, it will pass away. You know, oh, there's a great prophecy. Yeah, at some point it's going to be fulfilled and then it's over. Right? At some point, our salvation is going to be culminated when we're in God's presence for eternity. Right? God's love will never fail. God's love will never stop. You know, it never stops. Circumstances may change, relationships may change, but our love never stops. Our prophecies, sometimes they'll be fulfilled. Words, talk is cheap, right? At some point, I'm going to stop talking, and the things that come out of my mouth won't be said anymore, and you're thinking, quickly this morning, Jim. But no, I'm talking about in the global sense, I'm going to die. I've got nothing else to say. At some point, God has put a limit on the words that will come out of my mouth, and yours too. Philosophies, our compliments, our reputation, what people say about you, our knowledge, whatever you know, at some point there's an end and it's going to pass away. But love will not. You know why? I'll tell you why. Verse 9, it says, for we know in part. In other words, I don't care how much we study or figure out. Every time we learn something new in science, we learn 1,000 other questions we need to ask because we don't know. Every time. It just multiplies. It just keeps going. For we know in part and we prophesy in part. We don't know the whole thing. We don't know how the end's going to be. When completeness comes, what is in part disappears. In verse 11 it says, when I spake, when I was a child, I taught like a child. I almost went King James on you. I thought like a child. I reasoned like a child. When I became a man, I put the ways of childhood behind me. For now we see, in verse 12, for now we see only a reflection as in a mirror. But then we shall see face to face. Now I know in part, then I shall know fully, even as I am fully known. And what that means is at some point, everything that is an object of love here on earth, our stuff, our things, the stuff we like, all those things, at some point that's going to be over and we're going to be with Jesus. And at that point, it's when we'll know everything. That point, that part was when everything will be made complete. That's when love will be made completely full. And that's when we're really going to know. And all this other stuff, at some point, we're going to graduate to that. So we have to continue to hold on what is eternal and let go so much of trying to grasp it through an imperfect way or an imperfect hands or temporary hands. We have to continue to look at those around us and through the eyes of God. See, the truth is, fully when it comes to love, I don't get it. You don't get it. We're imperfect. We're incomplete children at our most intelligent. And for now, we will have to trust God when He tells us that love is the most important, the more excellent way. Love is about the maturation of a human soul. It's about something becoming. It's about us becoming what we were supposed to be. In verse 13, it says this. It says, and now these three remain. Faith, hope, and love. But the greatest of these is love. Truth is, you can't have true faith in God without love. You can't have true hope in God without love. Love drives the boat here. It really does. And finally, I'm going to tell you three quick things here about love and like. I'm just going to tell you this. I hope you grasp this. I hope you see this. First, love, like, and true love are independent of each other. In our culture, we treat like as pre-love. It's like love light. Well, I like you, and then if I like you a lot, then I will love you. That's how we do it on Facebook, right? That's how we do that too. You know, if you like something, but if you really agree with it, you put the heart symbol on it and you love it, right? But I'm going to tell you that like and love are separate. You know how I know that? I remember Jesus didn't like what he was about to have to do in the garden. But he loved God. And he loved you and me. I'm going to tell you in Exodus 33, you may not realize that, but we were singing a song earlier where it's talking about if you don't, I don't remember the chorus, but the thought was in there. It said something, Lord, if I'm not going, if you're not with me, that type of a thing, mentality that made me think of Exodus 33. It was right after the golden calf. All the Israelites, they had made an idol because God wasn't fast enough, didn't come quick enough, and they kind of thought, it's 10 minutes is like the limit for a professor, so I found the limit for God, so I'm going to make a golden calf and worship somebody else. That's kind of what they did. God came back frustrated. God looks at Moses and he said, look, you guys got to get out of here. I don't know where you're going to go. I know where you go. You can go up over there. I'll make sure everything's fine for you, but I ain't going with you because you people drive me nuts. Basically, this is Jim's translation. And I will probably kill you because you will say something stupid. Literally, go look it up. He said, look, you're stiff-necked people. You go on by yourself. I'm not going with you because you're driving me nuts. You know what he's saying? I don't like you right now. I love you, but I don't like you. You don't know why they're separate. One of the reasons, he called Peter, Jesus. He called the Pharisees a brood of vipers. Did he not love the Pharisees? Of course he did. He called Peter, hey, get behind me, Satan. Stop it. Didn't like him right then. Loved him a whole lot. He always loved everyone. You know why? Because he died for the sin of everyone, it tells us in 1 John 2. Everybody. Everybody. Yes. Even that Trump dude. Yes, he died for his sin too. I don't know what Trump's going to do with it. That's his personal thing. I don't preach to him. That's all right. Look, here is the point that we make. He died for everyone's sin. That's how Jesus could stand on the cross and look at the people who put him on the cross and go, God, forgive them. They just don't get it. Please. Because he loved them. He loved them. The reason it's like that, it's separate, is because like is a man-based thing. It's temporary. And love is eternal. Love is eternal. What's funny is those three things at the beginning of chapter 13 where we talked about, the things that I say, the things that I know, the things that I do, all those are great, but without love, they're nothing. You know what? And I thought it was interesting. Those are all the ways that we get people to like us, right? It's what we say. It's what the beauty we produce. It's what we know about people, what we know about others. It's what we do for them. So you can like someone, but not love them. And consequently, here's the thing, and this may blow your mind, you can love someone and not have to like them. So you don't have to be impressed by what comes out of their mouth. They don't have to be funny. They don't have to smell good. They can irritate the fire out of you. They can drive you crazy. But you can still make a choice to act in love to them, because love, like is a feeling. Love is a choice. I choose to act in love, sometimes in spite of the like. I'll tell you right now, I can make my wife so mad, I know how to irritate the fire out of her. That is the truth. I'm going to go one further. I have perfected that as a skill and a talent. I believe it's a spiritual gift, possibly not a spiritual gift, maybe it's a gift of some sort, but I can irritate. I have passed it on to my children. And you know how I know? Because they turn around and try to irritate me now. What's wrong with that? And they do it on purpose. And they know the time. And I'm like, oh, stop it. I'm in the middle of playing a video game. Hey, Dad, stop it. I got a time thing here. And oh, man, I just lost the ball out of bounds. Come on. And then I look at them, it's a smile, and I know they knew that they were doing it the whole time. They're doing it on purpose, right? They know it for me, right? I may not like them at that moment, but I love them. I can make a choice to love someone I don't like at the moment, because like is temporary, it goes away. It depends on the circumstances. But here's something that you've got to understand, and all these things that we've talked about love, when we talked about 1 Corinthians 13, what's so awesome about 1 Corinthians 13 is all that catalog, all that stuff, all those characteristics that I talked about, that is how Jesus loved us. That's how he's calling us to love. And here's the thing, like is possible without God, but love is not. True love is not. And I'm going to tell you, that may hurt somebody's feelings. If you're listening on Facebook and you don't follow it, but I'm going to tell you this, unless you're connected to Christ, you have not yet reached what is love. God created it. God made it. There's no way around it. 1 John 4:10 says this. This is love. Not that we loved God, but that he loved us and sent his son as an atoning sacrifice for us. Until we grasp that gospel, that's where love begins. 1 John 4, 7 and 8, right before that, tells us, dear friends, let us continue to love one another. Why? For love comes from God. You can't buy a knockoff at the dollar store and it be the same thing. You know, anyone who loves is a child of God and knows God, but anyone who does not love does not know God, for God is love. How can you do that which you don't know? There's no way that you could accomplish all of 1 Corinthians 13 truly from in your heart with that perspective unless you have a connection through God, with God, through Jesus. That's the only way that can happen. What we're going to do in our lives if we don't connect to God in this way, if we don't realize that God defines love, God created love, love doesn't exist outside of God. True love is the evidence that someone is following God and being sent from God. If you love others, then God had something to do with that. And if we're not connected to him, if we're cut away from him and separated from him, we are destined to try to repeat the errors of 1 Corinthians 13, 1, 2, and 3. We're going to try to impress someone by what we know. We're going to try to buy them stuff, do enough stuff to make them happy with us. We're going to try to say sweet things and sing sweet songs to them. And we're going to find out somewhere down the road that will fail, or they will, and we will have handed everything we have into that and it doesn't work anymore. I don't want you to experience that. And we have to grasp what love truly is. We can't just have it be acceptance. We can't have it just be physical love. We can't just have it even be just serving someone else. That's a part of love, but that's not love. Here's what I'm going to tell you. Please do this. Stop worrying about liking people, okay? Just start loving them. Imagine what that would look like. No one has to impress you, and you're going to be kind to them. You're going to ask God, what do you want me to do? How do I show your love to them, God? Because it's about you. It's about what I'm giving to God, and you're just this person is here. You're an opportunity. Man, you drive me nuts. You smell really funny. You say ugly things to me, but man, you're such an opportunity to show God love to somebody. Because I want God to know how much I love him by the way that I treat you. Do you see that? It doesn't depend on their characteristics. It depends on the faithfulness of God. Can you imagine what Palm Bay would look like if we loved in that way? There wouldn't be any more shootings of young men because the young men would be going, how do I show God's love to you rather than pull out this gun and shoot you? There wouldn't be any more crime in our government because our government wouldn't be sitting there going, wow, how can I get over on myself? How can I serve God? How can I make God so proud? How can I be the person of integrity? How can I lead in integrity and show the integrity of God to everybody and through everything I do? Can you imagine that? That's why the gospel is important. That's why we share the gospel with people. We have to stop worrying about liking people, but we have to start loving them. And I'm going to tell you, if you don't know Christ today, that's where it starts. That's where love begins. Until then, you're going to accept, or you're going to buy a knockoff from the drugstore, and you're going to hope it's the same thing, and it's going to fail at some point. And I'm going to tell you, you won't be the first, because there are millions of people who have gone to their grave faking love the whole time and never given. They're all doing the best they can, but never seeing the next step that God intended for them. And it's heartbreaking because they gain nothing. But if you love, you gain everything. That's when we accept that we understand the gospel. And if that's something you'd like to start following Christ about, I'd love to talk to you about that. There's a place to mark down on that card. But Christians, I'm going to ask you this too. And I want you to ask yourself this seriously. Have you been worried more about liking people than you've been loving them? Think about the people that you deal with. Are you more worried about what they're going to say back to you than you are about what they're going to think how God's going to be shown in that situation? Are you God's representative to them? Do you take that to heart? When you call customer service and they're a pain in the butt and they don't understand you, do you get mad? Or are you thinking, how can I show God's love to them right now? Lord, help me do this. See, until we get there, we're not going to see the world change like we need to, because we're not going to be doing what God says. We're not going to be loving people like He loved us. We cannot do that on our own. Maybe today you need to take a look at that, and you need to look at how your life is and say, hey, God, you're right. I haven't been doing that. Maybe you need to say, hey, I haven't followed you, Jesus, and that needs to begin today. But begin it today. Stop liking people. Start loving them.
Thanks for being part of Bay West today. Bay West Church meets at 100 Emerson Drive in Palm Bay at 11 a.m. on Sundays. You can find out more at baywestchurch.com, or you can follow us on Facebook at Bay West Church.